Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, commenting on the games from the First America's Slow Live Chess Championship weekend. And what do we have here? We have White playing too fast. I would like to comment on this game, but it's going to be tough if they keep moving quick. White has two pieces for the rook. Generally, that should be a win, but Black has two pawns compensation. That's might be enough to hold the draw, and it looks like Black can get a protected pass pawn with g4 check. So I'm not sure how much commenting I can do on this if they move. I'd like to see how this all took place. I was looking at it a little bit ago, and I thought White was misplaying it, but I didn't start the video yet. And if White's misplaying it, here's the answer right down here. I'll circle it or highlight it in blue if it'll allow me. Come on, I did it before. It's the clock. I'm pointing at the clock. See my mouse? Okay, being 93:12. You started with 90 minutes. You now have more time than you started with. You've gained 15 and a half minutes on the clock. So you've spent 12 and a half minutes for 31 moves. Okay, that's way too fast. You know, you're signed up to play a slow game. This is where you take your time, you think, you calculate, you look at different moves, you make an assessment of what you see, and if you're accurate and your opponent plays into your analysis, you can use your analysis against him and beat him. And if he uncovers something that you didn't see, he's going to beat you. And that's kind of how it is all up and down the food chain, no matter how good you are. If they see more, they do better. So now Black is taking his time, which is the only thing helping. Well, actually, White's taking his time here. But I'm going to attempt to go over this game, and I'll kind of make a mental note where we left off. How did White acquire two pieces for the rook? Okay, now the bishop's on pre, so you save that. You see? There it comes. Okay. So we're going to try to cover this game, but they're moving too fast. So I was just going to say it's probably better to step into a pin than to play f3. So he steps into the pin. And now this seems to set up a potential sacrifice. It's one of those things that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Now, I'm sure as soon as I click back to the game and try to analyze that, White's going to make a move and spoil it. My gut feeling is, well, I never know on these. Sometimes these work and sometimes they don't. So right now I'm going to be of the opinion that it doesn't work, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now Black has an annoying pin. It's defended by the knight on d2 and the queen on d1. Okay, it's attacked by the knight on f3. Black can bring another attacker up the board easily enough. He can bring a queen up to f6. How can White salvage this position? It's White to move. The first move I'm looking at is bishop b3. And the reason I'm looking, well, actually, no, I'm not. Well, it's not the first. It was the first move. It may not be the best move. You might run into a c4. See, my idea was that if Black follows up with queen f6, that I can take the pawn on d5. Like I said, I'm going to attempt to describe this game, but when you're moving too fast, you don't give me a chance. Okay, so what about bishop a5 check or a4 check? That doesn't quite get the, well, wait, we got to go forward a couple moves. Okay, doesn't quite get us where we want, but it displaces the king. Black can't afford to bring his knight back to d7, okay? So here's a case where you want to take your time, and we don't know exactly how much time White took on this move, but his position is kind of critical. He has the advantage of a piece for a pawn, or two pawns, and he's got to make it count. So one idea is to give the check, stop Black from castling, then put the queen on e2 of all places. And the purpose of this is to clear d1, and you can bring the bishop back. Now you could play queen e2 right away if you want, but then black can castle, okay, and kind of ends the danger. So rook g1 doesn't really help as much, I think, and now comes the third attacker. And now white's solution was just to sacrifice material back. And now black has a net advantage in material. So white's solution was to play quick and sacrifice material. White has two pieces for the rook, but black has two pawns in compensation. So I think bishop a4 check, queen e2, and bishop d1 gets you enough protectors on the knight, and I think white can hang on this in this scenario and will be just fine and win the game. That's my first impression. You got to put more analysis on it. See, I don't have the luxury of an analysis board. I'm not running a chess engine to verify these things. I don't believe in using chess engines to analyze a game in progress, because the chess engine is always going to show you the right move. When you're playing a game, you want to find the right move on your own. You don't want the engine saying what to do, because this is the move to play. You're not developing your analytical skills. So if white can consolidate his position, he's a little cramped, he should be okay. And I'm going to go as far as I can. I'm at move 14 until black moves and takes me out of this. Black's at least taking his time. He learned watching the first video not to move fast. But there came a point where I thought that white misplayed it. And it was here, well, not quite. I was watching this, just seemed like a few minutes ago. It seems like black has d takes here, undermining the defense of f4. If pawn takes, what's white going to do? He doesn't have time to take the bishop on e5, because you take on d2 with check and then pick up the pawn on e5, and black has three connected passed pawns, a rook and three connected passed pawns against the bishop and knight. So white has to play bishop takes here, and then black just takes this pawn, and black's got his three connected pawns. So black took this way, and now you see the pawns stay connected. Black gets a queenside pawn majority of 3-2, and he has 3-2 on the king side, but he would have had so much more had he taken the other pawn. So we're not going to fault black for moving too quick, maybe a little bit. You know, he's spent 30 minutes plus, or 28 minutes plus 16 and a half, 38 minutes on 33 moves. Yeah, black's moving too quick too. And now I'm going to leave this game because I know white's going to play quickly. And let's see. We were basically at, I'm just going to scroll up, not try to set it, see move 21, and we'll come back to that when we look at this game again. And I have a feeling the way they're going, this game may be over before I even get back to it. Okay, so this looks interesting. White has fianchettoed his knight in black's position. A little humor there. Missing a b pawn here. What's a knight? Did a knight take its own pawn? You don't see knights like this too often. Savor it. Savor the moment. When are you going to see this again? It's black to play. There's a loose knight here. White's a piece ahead for what it's worth. Black has a pawn for it. How did all this take place? Let's try and find out. Okay. So it's a Sicilian defense. Dragon. Okay, it's one of these maneuvers in the dragon where now we know how you got the fianchetto bishop. You're unmasking an attack on the queen. Discover attack. I always think discover is the wrong word, but it's the word they coined. I think uncover is a better word. Uncovered attack, okay, rather than discovered attack. You know, like, oh look, I discovered something. Well, good for you, but I uncovered something. I think that's more accurate. That's me. Okay, so is this book theory? Got me. There's a good chance it is. And if that's the case, both players are invited to look it up and find out what you did wrong. Okay, oh, we got to move here, so we got to go back. So let me repeat that. Is this book? Probably. It's just too soon for it not to have been tried before. And if it's book theory, there's a right way and a wrong way. And I'm not going to sit here and try and evaluate what book is. You do that. You play this opening, you need to know these lines, okay? Because you don't want to fall into a book trap. And if one of you's fallen into a book trap, then you're going to learn from this game, and it won't happen again. Okay, so he grabs the pawn. There's a threat on the knight on c3. White picks this up with check, and now the king slides over. Okay, so what's important here is knight a4, because this tempos the queen. And I'm not mad at you guys, honestly not. It's just that if you watch this video, you'll see what I mean. It's just the thing with chess.com. It's not you. It's when you make a move, it refreshes. It doesn't do that over at ICC, to my knowledge, but it does it here at chess.com. Maybe with their new server they say they're going to unveil in June. Maybe this will be fixed. Anyway, this is an important move, knight a4. Maybe it's a move that black missed. But it seems, well, let's see. See, the first natural reaction, black played queen e5. The first natural reaction is to check. But there's a thematic move here that allows White to salvage his position. That's c3, gaining another tempo on the queen. Okay, so then where do you put the queen? Maybe, the queen has to go somewhere. Where's it going to go? Ideally, you'd like to leave with a check, but you can't. But this goes back. Let's just reevaluate. When White played f3, or not reevaluate, back up. When White played f3, black is the one that chose queen b6, allowing knight f5. So when we first looked at the position, White was a piece up for a pawn. Okay, and what I said was that someone's fallen into a book trap, and it's their responsibility to look it up. Black has taken a little more time, but I've noticed that black tends to take time, which is good. He tends to use his time. White's taking a little time too, so there's a good chance they're both out of their book, even though they may still be in published theory. So, okay, I'm going to make a move and spoil it all again. Okay, let's back it up. Okay, so when black went into this line, at some point he had something evaluated, and maybe the apple cart has been upset, so to speak. In other words, oh, I didn't see that move. But and maybe one of you has missed a very powerful move. Now, like I say, I'm not here to try to determine who wins theoretically this position. It's probably already stated. I'm certain this is in the book somewhere. Someone's played this. But it's your guys' job to look it up and make sure that if you misplayed it, what you can do better. And then do you still have a chance, or you just get a bad game going into this for either white or black? Because it's the kind of thing, if you're not careful, either side could get in a whole lot of trouble fast. If white loses this knight, and it's still stuck down there later. If white loses this knight, black's got a very nice pawn structure. Now we see a piece disappear. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's just peek a little bit more, go as far as we can. He chooses to put the queen on e5. Now he protects the knight. Now the knight's threatening new discoveries, so he parks the king there. That makes sense. Now the knight doesn't have a retreat, but then again, how does black win it? Doesn't have a black squared bishop anymore. That's gone. If a knight opposes it, then white just takes the knight. Okay, but then this bishop is stuck down here defending it. So the link is to attack this bishop. Well, where do you attack the bishop from? That's a good question. The only way you can attack that bishop is get your queen to h4. Well, he just moved. Okay, let's see. Where were we? get your queen to h4 because you can't get a rook to h5 or the queen to h5. So right now this rook is tying down this bishop and knight. So for the rest of the board, black is down the exchange because he's lost a piece. You know, he hasn't recovered this yet. I'm just looking at the rest of the board. Knight, two knights, a bishop, a queen, and a rook versus bishop, knight, queen, two rooks. So right now it looks like white's won the opening simply because he's got material here. And now we know how the knight got to b2. And now white sets up a crafty little plan. He's planning to skewer that queen and pick up the rook, which he does. Now we know how that happened. Now this knight's a goner, but black only has so much material he can give up. Right now he's down a piece and a rook. Okay, this isn't working for black. He's got the rook on pre, and he can take the knight next move, but black is going to be down a whole rook once he takes that knight. It's not looking good for black. Okay, let's skip over to this game, back up, look at the times. Okay, they both spent some time. How many moves deep? 14. Okay, so he spent 28 plus 7, 35 minutes for 14 moves. A little over 2 minutes a move. Okay, that's good. So here we have the old Benoni or classical Benoni, or check Benoni sometimes it can go into if you play d5, then e5. White plays kind of passively, c3. Nothing wrong with it, it's just not the most aggressive move. And passive doesn't mean a bad thing either. So white's playing the London system with his, or a collie with his bishop outside the formation. And now white opts to allow double pawns to get further control over e5. So black kind of has a crummy bishop here. So far it's looking decent for white, but black has no weaknesses in his position, just a weak bishop. And there's pressure on the pawn, and now he takes with the knight to avoid getting an isolated pawn. Now there's pressure on f2 or f4, inviting white maybe to play g3, which may be not all that bad. It creates some weaknesses, but I don't see exactly how black can exploit that in the middle game. The knight's pretty secure on d4. E5 is restrained. Even if black does get it in, it's going to isolate his d pawn. So the knight was well posted on d4. I would have left it there. But then again, let's look at this. g3, knight c6, and then swing this knight over. No, can't do it. There's some tricks sometimes. It doesn't work in this case. Knight b4. It's not threatening the queen and the bishop. Because white gets away with pawn takes, and the queen is not lost because the bishop takes it. Black needs more firepower on the c file, and it'll take him a while to set that up, and white will get developed and handle it just fine. Okay, so anyway, he chose knight e2 rather than advance a pawn. Now black gets a piece developed, and the light squared bishop of blacks doesn't look all that good here, but we noted that already. Essentially the game's pretty equal. Let's see, as far as standings goes, I think both have 2.5 points. I didn't see an update on the standings. See if I'll bring this over. They published them, and I've got this to show me what games are going on. I checked before I came over here. It hadn't been updated yet, but I kind of know what happened in the other results. See, Corante had a draw last round, so he's up to 2.5. And Chess USA won his game. Who did he play? Still have that pairing here. He played the Hooded Claw and won, so they're playing for first place here. The lower section. I don't know what happened to Chessman's 2. He was in the lead, didn't play today. I didn't copy the buys and half point buys, but he's not paired this round. So it's between Myth Bullet Chess and let's see, who's it between? Let's see, Myth Bullet Chess and A1 B2 C3 XYZ guy. I think they both have 3 because. Oh wait, that was last round. That was last round. Okay, let's be a little more careful here. Come on, move up. Okay. Triple D and let's see. My Myth Bullet Chess has 2, and Alan or whatever Alan's also Aslan has 1. They're not playing. Maybe they already played. Myth Bullet Chess, and I don't see A1 B2 C3 here in a pairing. I don't know what happened. No, there he is. He's playing KJ Foster. And yeah, I have that game. Okay. Now Triple D and Roy 8, which is here, the last board. Apparently neither one, they're not playing, or neither one bothered to add me to their friends list so that I can find their game. I don't have all the games being played this round. Let's see. Roy Triple D is, you can't see my those friends that are in live chess, but I don't see either one. They may be here playing, but I'm not going to go through the long, laborious process of scrolling through thousands of names trying to find you. You need to add me as a friend if you want your games analyzed. And I don't think I analyzed games for either of these players during the event, but I could be wrong. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But without having you on my friends list, I can't tell if you're playing. Okay, and I can't comment on your games. Okay, so that leaves one game left that I'm covering, and that's the one here. And what did I decide? This was for first place also. Myth Bullet Chess and Alan's Aslan. Is that who's playing? Well, I guess Myth Bullet Chess is playing. I don't know why they're playing and why they haven't played. Or did they play last round? Maybe they played last round. Let's see. No? Yeah, they played. Myth Bullet Chess and A1 B2 played last round. Now, who won that game? I think ABC won. So, just trying to remember. It was one game that went very quick, and he's a quick player. So, anyway, apparently this game doesn't decide first. Let's back up and see what's happened here. Okay. Yeah, I remember this. I was just going over something similar with a student today, using this position. It's very symmetrical, with colors reversed. My student had played rook e8, and I was telling her, well, the rook doesn't really belong on e8 because you want a rook on an open file, and it's not clear if the e file is going to open up. I was trying to explain this to her. So I say it's best to develop your pieces, get your minor pieces out, get your queen off the back rank, then think where you want your rook to go. And here, I'll show you guys a plan. I think it's really good. It'll come up here in just a moment, and I'm going to have to use arrows because I can't analyze. See, one of the drawbacks with this type of formation is one of them ends up with this nasty pin that requires immediate attention because you get double pawns, and in some case, if you do it wrong, one side can get a completely winning game, and that's kind of beyond the scope of what I'm trying to show here. Something they teach the Scholastic kids. Let's see what happened. This went here. Now black is threatening to go here. I'm going to show you a plan here in a minute, not just yet. Okay, because now we're pretty much out of it. except black gets this in, and he's gonna double the pawns. But instead of rook e8, let me use diagrams and show you a plan here. And it's kind of thing that either side can do. If you do it the right way, you can do it. Now, here's the plan: d3, and we don't know what black's going to do. They'll probably play d6. But now here's the next trick: you play bishop e3, okay? And the purpose of this bishop e3 move is, I lost our arrows. You want black to take this bishop, okay? Because you take back with the pawn. Now, a couple of things have happened. You know, a lot of people, they reject this because they have these double pawns, okay? But this pawn on e3 is doing this great job. It's keeping black out of a couple squares, particularly that d4 square where he's trying to get a pin in the game in question. He does have a pin. And then your pawn on e4 is doing a good job for you too. You're controlling a lot of center squares with those double pawns. But what's kind of fun is you've also opened up this f-file. And white's next plan, after this happens, is to transfer this knight to h4 and f5, where it becomes a very potent attacker. Who's sending me a chat request? Okay, well, I'm not playing. Working on a... I'll come to you when I can. Okay, I'm doing a video. Anyway, let's see. Trying to continue the thought of what I'm doing. You want to get this knight posted on f5 where it's very potent, but you can't let me tell this guy making a video now. Leave me a message. There you go. Just don't know what he wants. Okay, but you can't get this knight to h4 right away is what I'm to say, because black has an uncovery attack, or discovered attack. Oops. Let's get back and move here. Move or two. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, after, let's back this up, get to the right square. Okay, d3, and then you're playing this. This gets traded. It doesn't have to get traded. We're going to cover that too in a moment. This goes here. That's why you want the rook to stay in the f-file, because now it's a half-open file. But you can't get this knight to h4 right away because of a discovery. The knight takes on e4, and then the queen, excuse me, the queen takes on h4. So what white does is, white stops and plays queen e1. And now h4 is covered. Then you can play knight h4 and knight f5. And a lot of times, players like to play rook pawn moves, and that just makes the square weaker. If this pawn has come up to h3, the pawn on g7 is overworked. There may be a combination later where white can play knight takes h6 and with check, and then undermining the defense of the knight on f6. Now, what black should do is, the moment this bishop does get to e3, is drop the bishop back to b6. And you do this from either side of the board. Okay, because I said this is something you can do from both sides of the board. Black can play for the same plan. That's kind of fun about these symmetrical double king pawn openings. Okay, so let's move forward and see what actually happened. And white hasn't decided what to do yet, so the guy never told me anything. He said hi and stopped writing to me. So basically, he just interrupted my video. I got to look at this. Wow. White's in trouble here. He had two pieces for the rook earlier. Here's the culprit right there. Come on. Okay. That's the time. Okay, so where do we leave off? I know I've been unable. I think I left off. I was trying to get around move 15. I was pointing out how I thought white should have, or black should have taken on e3, but he didn't. And at this point, he didn't take on e3. He took this way, and that chopped a few things off. And objectively, I would rather play white here, but it's not all that easy. The white pawns are not mobile. The king's cut off. Hard to see how the bishop and knight are going to work together just yet. Black should start thinking about setting up a blockade and drawing as a resort, and he's close to it here. The the king has no entry points in the center. E5 and D5 are off limits, so is B5 and G5. Well, go too far. Let's see. Let's go get this position correctly. Gotta be careful how I touch the board. It made it advance, I think. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is the black king really has no entry points, and right now the rook doesn't either. Black needs to activate his rook and open up some lines, and that's what this attempts to do. But here I thought he should play g4 check, just grab a pass pawn and try to be a nuisance, but he played here. But now he's got an open file, and white's down to 3 pawns, and they're all isolated. And now suddenly, boom, the rook comes into play, and he cuts it. He cuts it off. Comes over that way. Well, there's nothing there. The file is blocked. But here looks like white's playing a little incorrectly. That black king can get active here in a hurry. And that's exactly what happens. And white happily thinks I'm doing great here. But surprise, here comes a rook sacrifice for the bishop. And suddenly white's down to 1 pawn, and black's got some monster pawns here. White may still hold it. You think 3 pawns is great, but 3 pawns need to advance with the king, and they move 4 times as slow as 1 pawn or 1 king. Okay, but at the same time, white's gonna have to erect a defense here. So black's thinking about it. Black has at least a draw. That's the fun part. Black has at least a draw here. I just can't see any way white can preserve that pawn on a4 and eventually win it. And I don't think we're going to reach one of those positions where the black king ends up in the corner against on a1. He has a pawn on a2. White's king is on c1, and the white knight mates on c2. I don't think we're going to see one of those, but you never know. It could come up in the notes depending on how they advance the pawns. The white king is far away from the defense. White's going to have to start bringing his pieces over. There may be an accurate way. It may not. This is one of those wonderful things in theory. What's going to happen? The theoreticians love to work these problems out and determine who is better back in the 60s. If you have knight and pawn endings by Averbach, there's a whole bunch of wonderful endings and compositions and studies where they worked all these things out. And then sometimes they'd think the game was a draw, and it turned out, well, upon further examination, it was a win. And now with today's chess engines, they'll come in here, spit out the solution. What do they call it? The Naimanov table bases. Is this a position that'll show up in the table bases? Probably. But anyway, black shouldn't lose this. So we're at move. Let's see, he did bring his king closer. It's easy to see king here, and that pawn's a goner. White can't get his knight there in time, and he can't safeguard c3. So let's step away from this and look at the other games. See, the video is now just over half an hour old. I'm going to go for 1 hour and call it take a break and come back and do more. So here we had black down a rook and a bishop, right? And trying to get something back for it. And now he's got a pin. But white breaks the pin with an attack on the queen. Black needs to recover a knight and a bishop. I mean, you got the knight here, or a knight and a rook. You need 2 pieces back. And now this also defends the knight with the queen. So you need to come back here and attack the bishop. But the bishop just runs. And, black's going to be down a rook here. I think white's got this in the bag. Okay, let's see what else we have. Here's the game on board 1. Let's see. Not much has progressed here. A little bit. Let's see. Castled. overprotecting f4. White didn't want to advance this pawn. I think he could have earlier, and maybe now he's realizing he needs to get a knight back to d4, which would essentially have lost some time for him, but it's hard to see exactly how he improves his position. Black has no weaknesses. The only thing weak in the black position is this guy right here. It's not mobile, but White's not in any position to exploit that. Did that guy ever write me back? Well, hopefully he left me a message. I'm making a video now. Leave me a message. And he left the chat. Well, hopefully he left me a message. I'm just going to have to start ignoring these chat requests. I try to be courteous to all. I have some people that annoy me and are always trying to send me chat messages. And, you know, what do I tell you? If I'm in live chess, I'm working. You know about the personal message feature? Anyway, let's see. Oh, we just had a move there. What, is that the move? No. Okay. Now black is accepting an isolated pawn, getting rid of white's double pawn, allowing white to blockade the pawn on d4 with knight e2 to d4, if he so chooses. I don't know. See, when you're... one difficult thing with chess, even being a master, you can play somebody 15, 16, 1700. If they'll just play solid chess, you really can't get much of an advantage against them. And if you try to force something too early, you can often weaken your own position trying to create something, and then suddenly your lower rated opponent is quite in the game. I think e5 is premature. It's just going to create a weak isolated d pawn. So pawn takes. I mean, I'm happy. Well, he took that way. Okay. But after knight takes, pawn takes, no matter how black takes back, white is going to get knight d4 in, blockading the isolated pawn. And black gets the e4 square for his knight if he wants. It's a good square, but that can be dealt with. Now white's getting the better game here. It's hard to see exactly how black might try to improve his position here. Let's see. You've got this c4 square to work on. Knight a5, the idea of knight c4. Try to invite b4, giving a target on the open file. I think black had some other options. Keeps a little pressure on a4, keeps the rook honest. I think white's got a little bit of a plus now. Well, there's one thing here. Queen takes, knight d. Well, let's see. Rook takes, knight d4. The rook can swing over to h5, and then there's a threat on h2. You want to blockade. You want to blockade this pawn. Then maybe white would have been better served keeping the knights on the board for a move. Let's consider that. See, pawn takes, knight takes, and then swing this knight to d4. And if that, you see, what white has just done is develop the black rook. Okay, so here I'm talking about you wait for the mistakes from the lower rated players, they will make them. If white does it this way, he doesn't develop the rook. Now he's got the blockade, but black is able to now play rook h5 and has got some targets. Rook h5. Now white has to deal with the threat here. He could bring the knight back, but then suddenly this bishop springs to life. Bishop g4. Rook h5, h3. There may be a potential sacrifice coming here. On g3, you've weakened the light squares. White's gone the wrong way with this exchange. Let me explain this again. I've talked about it in a lot of videos. Don't make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces. Let him make exchanges to develop yours. So you don't need to trade another piece off here. Take the pawn. He needs. Well, he could play here theoretically, I guess, but that's okay. Let him take time to take it. Okay, so pawn takes, knight takes. Now swing this knight up to d4. Okay, if black wants to take this knight, you take back with the knight. And notice the black rook can't get to e5. Instead, white just placed the black rook on e5. Okay, so that was a serious mistake, and black's got some play. Now I heard a tick. Somebody won a game. Yeah, it looks like this game here, where a few moves have taken place. Let's see. So apparently black is the one that fell into the book trap here, and white didn't. Attacked the queen, took the pawn, saved the bishop, attacked the queen. Uh-oh, there goes the queen. He can just take it. He gets it. And now suddenly white's guarding that knight again. I mean, life is not fair. Although you still can't get it out, and maybe black could shut it off once and for all. But I've covered this. Let's just make a final evaluation here. This is a position that's been seen in the books a million times. Okay, well, not a million times, but we know these positions occur. Let's countless times. Let's go over it again. Queen b6, knight f5 has to be book, and it may be such a move that black is busted even. I don't know what the book says. That's for you guys to look up, because if black gets a counterplay, this might be a great thing to catch a white by surprise. I mean, white won this game. Maybe black missed a good move. Obviously, I missed it too. I didn't see it, but again, I'm not trying to prove those. I'm trying to turn you into researchers. You know, nothing better than a good old-fashioned book on the dragon. They're available. Let's see. So we'll close this game out and focus on the other three. Okay. Now there's 3 games left, and I don't know if the other game was played because neither player either had me as a friend or whatever. Now this one's moved on a little bit. Maybe white's getting closer to the draw, maybe not. Black's chosen to advance 1 pawn rather than all the pawns. Okay. So here he chose, instead of going after the pawn, which I explained at least draws, barring that crazy situation black steps into his king in the corner and gets cornered and gets mated. Black has chosen to keep the white king at bay and advance his pawn. Okay, so let's see how that works. Now the king is being kept out of the game. So white goes after pawns himself, but here comes this guy. And white needs to do something with his knight. It looks like white's about to lose this in short order. This is a queen in 2 moves. Sometimes the defense with a knight against a single pawn is to set up a knight fork. But you know, even if it gets a knight fork and it can't move to b4, just imagine the pawn on c2 and the knight on b4. After you move your king, you can't take the pawn because you're going to lose with the remaining position, 2 pawns against 1. Now this definitely appears to be Oliver but the shouting, because king e1 doesn't work, c2 stops it cold, and there's no way, because the king's on a light square, it's on the opposite color of the queening square. There's no way to one of those positions where you allow a queen and then do a knight fork. So this one appears to be over, and let's see, that brings us back to this. White's piling it, or black's piling it on f3. Well, you're going to have to give back a pawn, but your king is going to be very exposed here. Let's see. So let's back it up slightly. So White needed to play c3 right now and get that knight to commit where it was going to go, but he gobbled a pawn. Not a good idea. Now you're going to lose the pawn back, and black has a lasting attack. Okay, white to play. What do you do? First off, let's consider what happens if it's black to play. If I'm black, I'm going to play knight takes knight check. I mean, I might. Okay, now that forces pretty much pawn takes. Now bishop takes, and I'm on your queen. Where does your queen go? If it comes up to d2, that might be the only defense. Because if I play queen g6 check, you can throw your queen into g5. Otherwise, you get mated if you don't, so that might be a defense. Now, the other way to do it is bishop takes, okay? If I'm black, bishop takes, pawn takes. Now, if I want to have a knight fork, and that will at least win material. And plus, I've got pressure on h2. I can continue the attack. That looks good for both of those. Look good for black. So what does white do to stop this? They need some defense, and rook e3 doesn't defend. Just knight takes, and you're going to give up at least the exchange. So white seems to be quite lost here. Let's look at the two positions. That one's advanced slightly. The pawn's ready to queen, and again, white has no way to stop it. So this one's about over. And there comes the queen. And black's has been using his time. He spent 51 minutes plus 22, 73 minutes on the game. Okay, but now it's just completely winning for black. And I expect this game to be over shortly. Let's see. Am I still contemplating here? Okay, so black didn't do what I was suggesting, the rook h5 maneuver, trying to see how black would defend, or white would defend. Black has one more developed piece than white does, this rook. And the reason is because white captured on e5 and developed the black rook. See, this was white's mistake. Black shouldn't have gotten as much out of this as he did. But when you make mistakes, we all make mistakes. You say, oh shoot, well, what do you make out of this? Structurally, theoretically, white has the winning chances if he can reach the ending. But black has compensation in that he's got an active middle game now, and he has activated his light squared bishop. So white needs some defense here. Now the pawn isn't going away. You can redeploy this knight. You want the king on d4 in the ending anyway. You can redeploy this knight at some point, but I think black can still get a rook to h5. Queen f4 is horrible. You lose your queen to rook takes check. White can't really bring his queen into the game. Playing rook e3, trying to double up, doesn't really do much, because black can still play rook over. I think what white has to do is get his last. Well, this pawn, he's tied down to guarding that pawn, but rook takes. So you can't swing this rook over here to offer some exchanges, and then or try to ride out the storm with rook h5 because you're dropping your pawn. A5. Well, let's see. I was just going to say a5. I'll back it up one. A5 is met by. Oops. I think he should have taken with the rook. We'll talk about that in a second. A5 is met by rook takes, and queen takes. So, wondering if white had time to play b4, trying to set up this formation, figuring that the rooks may be coming off and he can ride out the weakness on c3. but he took, and I think black should have taken with the rook, and the reason is I want to get this maneuver in. However, white's got some resources. White may be able to play bishop e2. That keeps the rook out. But, taking with the queen can't be a bad move. It's just that I prefer the other one. It stops white from playing rook e1, but he may not want to. But now maybe white can play a5 here, just punt, and say, prove something. I've given you a little bit of an initiative. You've got better activity with your pieces compared to with what I have with mine, but I'm going to structurally try to win this game in the ending. I'm going to find a way to trade you down, and I'm going to punish you for having an isolated queen pawn and having, at this moment, 5 of your 6 pawns on the color of your bishop. And white could seek out knight versus bishop ending, bishop versus knight ending, or both bishop and knight versus bishop and knight, and all would be to his favor. But black controls the open file, and he controls this because white misplayed it with that knight takes e5 move. And I've done the same thing myself. We all have, but we want to recognize these things and not do them again. So any move white makes on the king side, weakens his position ever so slightly. But I don't know, f3. The idea here is you're taking squares, you're taking g4 away. Expose your king a little bit. I'm wanting to play the king up here, but dang it, you lose this h-pawn. I'm trying to play the king up there so I can swing the rook over. But then again, we still have this problem that this thing is loose. So white's got his work cut out for him here. I think a5 is the best move. But as to how it transpires, I don't know yet. Okay, let's move over the other games. Okay, this one is basically over. White, you need to resign, okay? You're going to lose your knight in a moment, and no matter where you move your king, you're going to get forked. If you don't get made, you put the king here, there's your fork, okay? You put the king here, you're going to get mated. So then there's no defending mate, even with a knight move. So if you don't want to get mated, you have to put your king here. But then you're going to lose your knight. Okay, so I've covered that one. Hopefully we'll hear a click here. Let's look at one of these other games. I've seen that. And we're back on that one. Okay, he did win. Okay, so resigned. And black missed a d takes e3 would have been better, but he was aided by black cooperating, or white cooperating by playing too fast. So there's no point in going back over that one. We'll focus on the last two. Video's approaching an hour long. I'll do a summary and then probably take a break between the two. So let's see. Here's this critical game and that critical game. And okay, Myth Bullet Chess is disconnected and is trying to get back in. White's clock is running. We still got these diagrams here. Yeah, this was a mistake to take this pawn. Now let's double check who's winning the lower section. Let's see. It looks like Myth Bullet Chess will end up winning this event. Although, let's see. ABC lost. Maybe they'll tie. I'm sorry, I don't remember the result of that game. But when I post all these videos going up on my YouTube channel right away, when I advertise this more, we'll have links to all kinds of things, including the results and who won. And a lot of people will have the option to look at these videos and can see the links. And if I remember, I'll post a link to the article where I talk about this and how you need to join the groups that are in the YouTube channel. Let's talk about those groups for a moment. I think I mentioned them in the very first video. Linked in there is my website, which I need to do a little bit of tidying up on. I've cleaned some pages out and moving things out and combining. I just haven't had a chance to get in there lately, but I will. But through that, you can get to my YouTube channel and leave me comments. There's a way you can leave a message for me on that. I promote several groups. I have my video lessons group. It's the third largest group on chess.com. It's formed late April of 2012, so in just over 25 months, we've catapulted up to the number 3 largest group. And by the time summer will hit number 2. And we run a lot of team matches. Correspondent chess was a big part of my development as a chess player because I learned how to analyze, how to study openings, look them up, get used to them, and play out endings. So we run a lot of team matches, and I have a lot of teams that like to play us, that like to beat up on us. When we were beginning out, we were kind of a weak team, and the bigger teams would come in and clean us out. And I actually discovered I like that. Not that we lost all the time, but we could start a match with a much stronger team, and all our players would have a chance to play a stronger player. And it's just target practice, this stuff anyway. And we'd get cleaned out like by a 2-to-1 margin, 80-40. But all of our 80 or 60 boards would be, most of them would be playing a better player, and they'd get some experience doing so. And finally, I started getting tired of losing some of these teams, and I'd do a recruitment pitch. Excuse me, got the hiccups. I'd do a recruitment pitch and with a news post, and we'd end up outranking them and wipe them out. And like with Romeo and Juliet, Susie that runs that great lady, really hard worker, got a very, very strong team, and they were always beating us. So we got them once, and I'm happy with that. We started the next match today. I'm not going to recruit. We got our win. We want to learn from you. We appreciate you. So anyway, that's the video lessons group, and then commentary. We've got a games analysis section there. You can post your game and help each other out. I run simultaneouses. I'm going to do as many as I can this summer. Then I'll have to tighten up. And I've had other masters do it. Title players come in and do simul's. I'm going to have another one soon. I'm trying to get others and some to come back that have done it before. A lot of fun in that group. Okay, then I've got the Dan Heisman Learning Center. Dan is one of the premier, linked in my YouTube description, one of the premier chess teachers in the United States. He's been a full-time professional chess teacher for at least 16 years. He graduated, Caltech? Very, very bright man, very promising career. And he gave that up to teach chess, so he's got to be doing something right. He's written, 11 books? He's got tons of articles published. He's got a lot of videos up. He does a show at chess.com every 2 weeks. He makes himself available. You can call his phone, Skype him. He'll talk to you. Great guy, and he's got a great staff of volunteers working for him. They run tournaments, much like what you see here. See, this is what I like about this tournament is that it's set start time. Until we can get bots to handle this, the other method is player negotiations, which you can work out. So you join the Dan Heisman Learning Center, and they you enter a tournament. They find a partner for you. You message them and say, hey, I can play Wednesday night at such and such time. He says, well, I can't. How about Tuesday at this time? Okay, perfect. Then you get your game, meet in live chess, have a good game, look at it with each other afterwards, analyze together, boom, and Dan's resources are all there to help you, and it's a very friendly, chatty bunch. You'll have a lot of fun in there. And then the director of this one, Zugzwang67, has his own little group, the Slow Live Chess Association. He's got over 1,000 members in there. By the way, Dan's is the 8th largest group. He'll be catching up to me soon enough. He'll be pass all the groups between us. It'll take some time, but he'll get there. And then we hope to see Zugzwang67's group hit the top 10 eventually. And then and he runs similar to what Dan Heisman's group is running. He's got tournaments and stuff. And then I have the World Standard Time Control Club, 365 days a year. This is designed for the people that don't want to enter a tournament and don't want to negotiate a time. Say you feel like playing a long game right now. Okay? If you're in the group, you go to the group wall, say, hi, I'm posting a 90-30 seek. in live chess in 5 minutes. You post the seek, and if all goes well, somebody in our group will see that and accept the challenge, and you've got a game when you want a game. You know, just these games are target practice for the real tournaments where the big money is. Okay, so this video has hit an hour. I'll wanted to tell you about the groups you want to be in. You want to be in them all. Be around people that like to play slow games, because this is chess, okay? Blitz and bullet are fun, but this is real chess, and you get better by the more you play. So we're down to 2 games. Let's take a quick look here. Oh, this has changed a lot. The queen has come back, and the rook has come back. Well, the rook never left. See, never got that rook to h5. Wow. So I was saying I thought that queen takes was an error, that it was better, but I said it might not be bad, but now the queen's backed up. Now white's covering this pawn, keeping some pressure on h2, and now this rook's free to come in the game, and white doesn't have to waste time going into some of the stuff I was to create for him. So it's still close to an even game, but black had a little chance to maybe get some weaknesses in the white position. So I'm going to stop this video, take a break, and I'll come back and cover a bit more in just a little bit. All right, thanks for your time. Bye now.